back to my channel, Watch My Reviews. Today I'm going to be doing The Flash spoiler review. So this has been out for a week now, so I thought I mull it over for a week before I do my review. This movie's had so many problems and all that coming into it with Ezra Miller's personal life and what he's been doing in that. It is kind of taken over what The Flash was going to be, in my opinion. A big movie. I think the Ezra Miller stuff has just tainted the movie. It is. So I will break up this review into I think about 5 little slots. I will. But first of all, I will talk about the director and the actors. So the movie was directed by Andy Muschietti. So he did direct It Chapter 1 and 2. So he's a very capable director. You see glimpses in this movie of his brilliance, but it is overshadowed by I've got a lot of dislikes for this movie, unfortunately. So when we get into my likes and dislikes, I will talk a little bit more into that. The movie also stars Ezra Miller as Barry Allen, the Flash, the main guy for this movie. So he plays his older self and his younger self, which when I get into the story, we'll talk about that. Michael Keaton obviously returns as Bruce Wayne / Batman, the '89 Batman for this one as well. Sasha Calle is Kara Zor-El / Supergirl for this. Michael Shannon does return as General Zod for a few scenes. We do get to see Barry Allen's mother in this one. Pretty sure we don't see her in the other movies, any of the other DC movies that he was in. But she is played by Ramabel, if I butchered that before, Verdu. So she plays Nora Allen, and Ron Livingston has taken over from the other guy who was in Watchmen, who played Dr. Manhattan in Watchmen, who was Barry Allen's father, Henry Allen, in the Zack Snyder Justice League's movie. So we get a couple of newbies, but there. Kirstie Clemons comes back as Iris West. We get a little bit more of her in this movie as well. Get a few scenes with her and Barry. Jeremy Irons and Ben Affleck come back as Alfred Pennyworth and Batman. We also do get a little cameo by Gal Gadot as well as Wonder Woman as well in the beginning part. But yeah, a lot of other people in the movie. If you'd recognise their faces if you go into it. So, like I said, unfortunately for this movie, the acting is good as a whole. Like, Ezra Miller is the standout star of this movie. Unfortunately, with his private life, it is of what's happening with him in that. It is overshadowing this movie. But he is a very, very good actor. And in this one, he does go back and forth a very comedic version of him of Barry Allen, but when he gets into the serious stuff, he is phenomenal as an actor and that. So he is the standout star, obviously, as this movie. Michael Keaton puts in a very good performance as well as Bruce Wayne, Batman. It is, especially when I think they get to him about halfway through the movie, something like that. So he's only in half of that movie. Sasha Calle I think, is the breakaway star, I think, of this movie. Unfortunately, we didn't see enough of her in this movie, but she does play a very good part in Kara Zor-El, Supergirl, in this movie. It is. The other actors as well, especially Ron Livingston and Maribel Verdú, Nora Allen, they play brilliant parts in this for what they're in the movie. And Nora Allen and Barry Allen, right at the end, have a very touching moment. It is, and does bring a tear to your eye in that. It finished kind of strong for that part of the movie. It did, but everyone else done an adequate job. It is, but like I said, this movie does lean very heavily on the comedy, and the younger Barry Allen does have his younger self in this movie, so he plays whatever old he is in Justice, in this present day Flash, in his 20s or 30s maybe, I don't know. It is, but he does play a 18-year-old version of himself who's a very obnoxious obnoxious 18-year-old in this movie. But yeah, directing's pretty fine on this movie. It is like there's some good scenes, but yeah, it's a very disappointing movie for Muschietti to direct after he'd done a brilliant job with it. Chapter 1 and 2, the direction in them movies were very good. It was, but yeah, some highs on the acting, some very much lows, unfortunately, with especially when they dive heavily into the comedy aspect of this movie, which they do quite a lot. It is, but yeah, Ezra Miller, unfortunately, what's happening with him in his personal life and all that, but he was fantastic in this movie. So next up, we will go into the story. So this movie is based off the comic Flashpoint, where it's pretty much kind of the same story in this. Not so much, obviously it doesn't go beat for beat like the comic, but it's got a similar thing where the Flash, in this version, it's, I say the comic version is he goes back in time to save his mother. When he does, the whole world has changed. The Amazonians and the Atlanteans are at war. There's no Bruce Wayne Batman. It's Thomas Wayne. His father's the Batman in this movie. Cyborg is like the main American hero. Superman was captured when his pod crashed in Metropolis, not Smallville. So the government had him in a place with red solar lights. And it's Theodore Thorne who is the main villain. Reverse Flash is the main villain in that comic. So it does change a little bit from this one. In this one, it's more of Barry goes back in time to save his mother after having a chat with his father, who's in jail. He's got an appeal coming up, but unfortunately, the evidence they have to try and exonerate him doesn't work out because he's got a camera view of him in the thing, which was all fuzzy and all that, but it's now clear. But he doesn't look up to the cameras. Unfortunately, they do a nice thing at the end of the movie to rectify it, which I will get to. But after having a chat to his father about it, he decides to go back in time and save his mother, but not in the way of saving her from her being murdered. It's said during the film, like part of the beginning of the movie, of like his past, where his mother forgot to pick up an extra tin of tomatoes. That's why his father goes back to the supermarket to get them. So Barry Allen goes back in time to that point of where his mother goes to the shop and puts an extra can of tins. But by the time he's coming back, there is a dark speedster that pushes him out into, instead of him getting back to his present day, hits him back where he's an 18-year-old kid there. So there's two Flashes now. There is. But it pretty much hits end of Zod's come back to Earth. He has, and Flash needs to find all the Justice Leagues or whoever's there. But unfortunately for him, not all of them are alive. There's no Superman. There's Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne Batman, an older grizzled Batman. There's no Wonder Woman. There's no Aquaman. There ain't, and only Barry Allen, the future, like the older version, has powers. So he has to try and get the younger one his powers, and then doing so, he loses his. So we get a whole thing then of when he's with Batman, and after they've rescued Kara Zor-El, who they thought was was Superman, Clark Kent, Kal-El, but it finds out it's her. They go back and they do recreate how the Flash gets his powers back from the comic. He does lose them in the comic when he goes back in time. He does. So they do a good job of giving his powers back. And then we get a whole thing of they've got to try and stop Zod. Then but we do get into a similar point of the movie where it was the same as Across the Spider-Verse, where in the Across the Spider-Verse, when they talk about the multiverse, they talk canon events always happen. So they talk about this one as well, where unfortunately in the final battle, Kara Zor-El and Batman don't make it. They do die. But the two Flashes, Barry Allen's, keep going back and forth trying to save it. But it's a canon event, which Bruce does explain earlier in the movie, that certain things will always, like, they're bound to happen. They are. And unfortunately for this world, it is destined to be destroyed, and Kara Zor-El and Batman are destined to die in it. So the older Barry Allen, it just hits him that he's got to go back in time and his mother's got to die. That's, you know, her not dying screws everything up, unfortunately. But the younger Barry doesn't believe in that, and they have a bit of an argument. But then the Dark Flash comes in, and you realise then the Dark Flash is the younger one who's been trying to save Kara Zor-El and Batman for countless years. So he turns into this grotesque beast, pretty much, and all that, like spikes coming out, black goo. I think you've seen the pictures of the things. But the younger Flash then sacrifices himself to save the older one, and for that wipes out the Dark Flash, and then Barry has to go back to the point of where he put the tomatoes in his mouth, and that's where we get the very, very emotional scene of Barry talking to his mother. It is, and it's a very intense, sad scene. It is, and it does bring a tear in your eye, because Ezra Miller sells it perfectly. He does. And then we get to the future, then we do, and you think everything's fine. He done a smart thing when he went back in time, when he was back at the supermarket, that instead of having the tomatoes down low, he puts them up high, so his father looks up into the camera, so his father gets acquitted and gets set free. But then we have a nice little touching moment with Barry Allen and Iris, and then Bruce Wayne rings him up, and then we get a very big surprise of a George Clooney Bruce Wayne. Yep, they did film 3, I think, endings for this. I think we saw behind the scenes footage of Michael Keaton's Batman there, and I think Supergirl was supposed to be there as well. And I think I heard one of Superman and Batman supposed to be there as well, but I'm not 100% sure on that one. I'm not. But yeah, unfortunately for this story, it's not as strong as the Flashpoint one. I think that's a much stronger story. If you really want to see a good interpretation of that movie, they did bring out an animated one. DC Animations bring out a very faithful version of that, and it is a very good thing. If I'm not mistaken, in that storyline as well in the comic, when he does go back to the future after the end of that, after that world pretty much gets destroyed, that's when the New 52 kicked off, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong there. But yeah, the story is not very good. It's a tale of two halves, I would say. This story is a very weak first half, but when we get to see Batman onwards, then I think it finishes kind of strong. It is. I know a lot of people are not really going to believe that and that, but I do think the second half of this movie is way stronger than the first. It is. So that's pretty much the story on that, and I think the only thing I missed on the first part, but I'll go into when I get into my discs, like, I will talk about the first scenes of the movie when Batman, Ben Affleck's character and that are in it. It is. But that's the story. And next up, we will go into my likes. So, like I said, there's not going to be so many likes for this movie, unfortunately. I did find it thoroughly disappointing overall. But like I said, with the actors, they all do a pretty good job, especially Barry Allen, Ezra Miller, and Henry Allen, Nora Allen. Their relationship, I think, is brilliant. I think Sacha Carley as Kara Zor-El was brilliant. Michael Keaton comes back, does have a very badass scene when he kicks the shit into a load of Russians, and I put it on par as the warehouse scene in Batman vs Superman, how vicious Batman is. But I can't say much else of the thing. I did like the ending of the movie, not so much the George Clooney part, but when he goes back in time or he goes back and he has a little confrontation with the Dark Flash, and then he talks to his mother and all that. I thought that was very well done there as well. I can't really say much more. I wasn't that much of a fan of the music, but I think the acting and all that was kind of just my big high point of this movie, unfortunately. It is, but yeah, not so much for that. So we'll go into my dislikes now. So my dislikes are the first half of this movie, and especially the beginning of this movie, for me, was absolutely awful. It was absolutely awful. They have a scene where we do talk about the appeal and all that, but then, like the beginning is Flash and Bruce Wayne, Alfred, rings him, says Bruce needs you in Gotham. People are hijacked a chemical weapon that could wipe out thousands of people, but Flash ain't there to stop them. That's what Batman's going to do. Flash is there as a clean-up. So the building they were in, they detonated a bomb, so he's there to clean it up, sort it out. And then it was this very, very badly CG scene where babies are falling out, and yeah, it felt very, very bad for the movie, in my opinion. It did not work at all with him saving the babies and all that. They played it for laughs, and it was just awful. We do get a nice little chase scene with Batman and the criminals. We do, but then when that ends on the bridge where Batman actually does it, but someone's going to fall, Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman comes, kind of saves the day. And then we have a goofy moment then with Batman and all that. He's got the lasso of truth on his wrist, and he's saying about how his ego won't let him do stuff, blah blah. He has a big smirk on his face when he says hello, Diana. It's the best portrayal for me of Batman and Wonder Woman is the animated Justice League cartoon that was out with Kevin Conroy and all them. It is. I think that portrayed their relationship perfectly in my book and all, where Diana really liked him, but Bruce was always kept himself to one side and said, look, we can't date because we're colleagues, etc., blah blah blah. But in this, yeah, it was awful, to be honest. Very, very bad. It was. The visuals in this as well, which I'm not going to blame the VX department. I'm going to blame the heads of things. People have come out and said they do not get the time to put in good CGI, and you can see if you put in good time. Look at Avatar, for example. They had years to do things, but unfortunately for Marvel and that, they've had some crummy thing, and they're pushing their VFX department, giving them short time to pull off complex visuals. But this movie very much has some very bad visuals, especially when he goes back in time and he's like in a sphere type thing, and it's like things happen around him, and it's not live action. It's like, I will say, it's like cutscenes from a video game graphics. It is absolutely awful. It is, and some of the worst, and it comes with some of the cameos that come right at the end. So some of the multiverses are coming and colliding. So you see a CG version of Christopher Reeves and the Supergirl of that one. Batman 60 from the 60s, Adam West Batman. I'm pretty sure you see a Flash, and it's one of the imposter Flashes, I thought, from the CW Flash, but I could be wrong there. And one very surprise, and it did put a smile on my face, but it did look visually bad for the thing, is when Tim Burton was supposed to do Superman, and you had Nicolas Cage as Superman, and you have him fighting a spider, so you actually get to see a little bit of that in this movie. It is, but the CGI, yeah, is just, some of it looks okay, pretty good, but the majority of it is very bad indeed. And like I said, I do not blame the visual effects artists who did it. They do not get the time they need to perfect them things. So I blame the heads of the studios for allowing it to happen, unfortunately. The music's very generic. I don't think anything much of it, nothing really stood out for me personally. It wasn't. It ain't. I'm trying to think of anything else I disliked. I think mainly that, to be honest. Yeah, direction wasn't great. The storyline, especially the first half, was very poor. It is. Visual effects was very bad as well. It is. But yeah, very bad movie. Very bad visuals, and yeah, not a great movie, unfortunately. We do get a very crap end credit scene as well, where Barry Allen is helping Aquaman out of a bar, a drunk Aquaman. It's the only one credit scene you see out of that, to be honest. And yeah, it's a nothing scene. Things similar to some of the MCU ones they put out lately, just nothing end credit scene that doesn't pursue any other movies following from this movie. I think that's it for my dislikes. So going to my final verdict now. So yeah, my final verdict, very, very poor movie, to be honest. And you can tell by the box office it's getting how bad it is. It's just, it's flopping worse than Black Adam right now, I think. It is. I think the only other movie that's had a worse run thing that they done was a comic was Morbius. So overall, I give it easily a 4 out of 10. It's probably one of the worst movies I've seen of late. It is, and that's saying something. It seems that I watched Fast 10, and I did not like that at all as well. But yeah, very poor movie. I'm hoping for high hopes of James Gunn at DC now and all that. We do have another couple of movies, and I honestly forgot about Blue Beetle. We got Blue Beetle and Aquaman 2 coming out still. So I don't even know if they're going to be part of the new DCU under James Gunn or not. But yeah, absolutely crazy over at DCU, the DC thing, Warner Brothers. Absolutely crazy for these movies. So yeah, very poor indeed. And if you want to, like I said before, you want to see a good, faithful adaptation of the Flashpoint movie, go buy the animated version. It's absolutely brilliant. They do, I'll give it DC, they actually knock it out the park with their animated movies. They do, which I absolutely love. But yeah, if you want to see a good adaptation, watch that version indeed. So yeah, 4 out of 10, very poor movie it is. And unfortunately, I probably buy it. I'm a completionist when it comes to the movies. I have to buy it to complete that set as well. It is, but yeah, I don't think it's something I'm going to be watching a lot in the future. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below, tell me what you thought of the Flash movie, and if you'd like to see more videos, I guess, please subscribe to my channel. I'll see you next time. Bye.